everyone, my name is Ron Hayes Games. There are 69 deleted scenes in Harry Potter, and today I'll be ranking every single one of them. I'll cover the best, the worst, and the really interesting deleted scenes all in this video. Without further ado, let's get into it. In last place at number 69, I have Filch blows out Umbridge's fire. When watching it alone, this scene seems funny, but I have actually watched both the theatrical and Peacock extended editions of the Harry Potter movies, and if you're watching this scene like during the actual events, it completely changes the tone before Harry has the vision. Like, normally it's Friend George's escape, then Harry has the visions. But now, with this scene added, it's Friend George escape, then Filch blows out Umbridge's fire, and then immediately after Harry has the vision. It just ruins the whole scene pretty much, and the best scene in the movie at that. So I have to give this last place. In number 68, I have the alternate Aberforth scene. This scene is what they originally shot, and it is just not good. They're just sitting down, talking a bit, and it's super boring. They reshot it with them standing up and screaming a bit, which I do quite enjoy, gotta say. But this original scene is just boring, and it's just not fun to watch. So that is why I gave it second to last in the number 68 spot. At number 67, I have Trelawney's interrogation. This scene is just kind of pointless, and it just has Umbridge interrupting Trelawney every time she tries to speak. But in the original cut, this was like put into the montage as just a small part, and I really like that. This scene is kind of funny when like Trelawney smells Umbridge's feet. But overall, again, when you're watching this within the movie, it's just boring and useless. That's why I give it the 67 spot. At number 66, I have Trelawney at dinner. This scene is so boring. She's just messing up her food for 2.5 minutes. One of my big critiques with deleted scenes is a lot of them are way too long. This is one of them. A deleted scene should be like 30 seconds. Not 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I do not like this scene at all. And it gets the 66 spot. At number 65, I have Harry and Ron finding the flying car in the Forbidden Forest. I guess it's a neat touch, but it ruins the surprise where the car saves them. And I just think the movie would have been much better without this scene. And, well, the theatrical cut is without this scene, which is good. I just don't like this scene, and it's pretty deserving of the 65 spot. Number 64 goes to the Birds Tour Extended in The Prisoner of Azkaban. I really like this in the theatrical version because the bird is the only living thing, it seems like, just flying around the grounds with nothing else living in sight. But then this adds Hagrid being bothered by the bird and shooing it away. And I just think that's kind of boring, and I like the theatrical version of this scene much, much more. At the 63 spot, I have Harry telling Ron that Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets. I don't like this scene because in the original cut, he actually announced it to both Ron and Hermione, and it just feels weird to do it for just Ron in this scene. And also, in the original cut, he says he's going to get the cloak out, but in this, he just gets it out without saying that. And I don't really like that. That's why it gets the 63 spot. At the 60-second spot, I have the hunt. This scene is too long, and it's just useless. It has foreshadowing for Ron leaving when they walk back far from each other. But overall, I'm just not a big fan of this scene, and I can't put it any higher than the 62 spot. At 61, I have Bill's warning, and that's simply because there was so much tension building up, and this just ruins it. And, they're standing, not talking for so long, and when Harry says he'll just know when, what the Horcrux is, it kind of spoils the fact that he himself is a Horcrux. I mean, not everyone's going to put them together, but if there are any Hermiones out there, then they could put it together from that little bit of information. And this is just such a long scene with not a lot of information in it. So I had to put it down at the 61 spot. At the number 60 spot, I have Seamus and Neville rigging the bridge. This seems like a cool scene on paper, but if you think about it, it kind of ruins the shock when the bridge blows up in the theatrical cut. Well, it blows up in both versions, but this just spoils it a bit, and I don't like that, so it's at 60. At the number 59 spot, I have the origin of the radio. It does play a role in the film, but this scene just slows the pace. And were any of you really asking, I wonder how Ron happened to get that radio? No. So, it's neat, but it's not my favorite, and I think it deserves the number 59 spot. At 58, I have Harry packing from Order of the Phoenix. This scene is very long and boring. It does show how, down Harry's feeling after Sirius's death, but this scene is just slow, and I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I just don't see the point of having this scene in the movie. Good on the producers cutting this. At number 57, I have Harry's attempt. He attempts to ask Cho out to the Yule Ball, but he fails. There's really nothing that this scene adds besides the fact that Harry really is desperate to go the ball with Cho, and, well, this scene just isn't amazing, so I put it at 57. At 56, I have Hogsmeade. This scene from Prisoner of Azkaban, it's pretty crazy since so much is going on, and this was all in one take, which is pretty crazy. But there's not a lot of interesting stuff, and also, it's a minute long. Deleted scenes should not be entire minutes, well, with the exception of a few, but I overall feel like this scene shouldn't be as long as it is. For a deleted scene, it should be good 30 seconds. And if it's gonna be a minute, 2 minutes long, it's gotta be important to the plot, and this just isn't. And that's why I put it at the number 56 spot. At the number 55 spot, I have Harry running into Hagrid with the roosters. This scene, it covers a detail from the book, a very minor detail at that, but it's not really useful. It says in the book that roosters can kill the basilisk with one crow, but it never says that in the film, so you can't really understand. You don't really understand this scene unless you've read the books, and that's, well, I have read the books, but a lot of people who watch the movies have not read the books. So just watching this scene without reading the books. It's kind of confusing, and it's just not my favorite scene, so it gets the 55 spot. Next up at number 54, it's Yaxley visiting the Granger's house. A lot of people don't like this scene because there's nothing really going on, but this scene is a 30-second scene that covers a pretty big plot point from the books, is that Hermione altered her parents' memories so that they wanted to move to Australia, which that's pretty much explained wordlessly in this scene. And I like this scene for it. It's the first scene on the list that I actually somewhat like. Next up at 53, we have Ron and Hermione skipping stones. This scene seems good on paper, but it's 2 whole minutes long, and it covers something that wasn't even in the books and just pretty minor. Sure, it builds up Ron and Hermione's relationship, but let me tell you, the series has spent 6 movies so far building up their relationship. We don't need this 2-minute deleted scene of them skipping stones, and the only reason it's above the Granger house scene is because, well, it's a bit heartfelt, and it really shows how far Ron and Hermione have come. But overall, this scene isn't the best. At the number 52 spot, I have meeting Sir Cadogan. This scene is nice, and it's a good 40-second scene, but it doesn't really give you any information, and it's just not the best scene in the world. It just introduces the new character, and we already had a funny portrait moment earlier in the film with the fat lady, so there's not really a good point for this scene. Next at 51 is the extended Rogue Bludger scene from the Chamber of Secrets. This scene is only 20 seconds long, and it's here for the simple reason that it's not like Harry to just recklessly endanger random people, which he does when he flies through the stands. Entering the top 50, we have the letters and the eggs from the Sorcerer's Stone. This scene shows a cool moment from the books, and I do enjoy this scene, and it's a good 40-second scene, but it doesn't add a whole lot to the plot, and I do like it, but it's not as good as some of the scenes coming up. At number 49, we have Life in Gryffindor Tower. This is the perfect length, being exactly 30 seconds, but it feels a little awkward to see people doing like a bunch of like different people doing random things. But the end when Harry is looking into the fire is nice. At the number 48 spot, I have Ron and Harry meeting Arthur in the elevator. This is a nice scene because it's like all of them together, but like Harry and Ron are trying to keep their cool and really sell the idea that there's someone else. But this scene is way too long for a deleted scene. It's 2 whole minutes. And deleted scenes should not be that long. The ones that should be that long have to be like big for plot evidence, but this isn't. So I have to put it down at the number 48 spot. Next up at 47 is Harry and Luna from The Deathly Hallows Part 2. This scene is nice, and it has some nice dialogue, and it also reveals a plot point from the book with the eye in the mirror. But this scene is just way too long. Again, 2 minutes. Too long for a deleted scene. And although I do love Luna, I will admit this scene is really slow, and it kind of ruins the pace of preparing for the Gringotts break-in. At number 46, I have Running from Nagini. This scene, it's only 20 seconds long, but I see no reason for this to actually be in the film. I mean, it's sort of nice as a moment where Ron's about to say that he loves Hermione, but they had already kissed at that point, so there's really no need. And overall, I'm just not the biggest fan of this scene, so it gets the 46th spot. At the 45th spot, I have the Yule Ball invites. This scene is cool and funny, and Harry and Ron's reactions are priceless. I feel like this is the first scene on the list that definitely should have been left in, probably. At the 44th spot, I have Filch locking up the Slytherins. The scene itself is a bit funny, but the reason it's up this high is for the simple reason that it actually reveals that Filch is a squib, which is really nice. Next up at number 43 is the curse scene from Deathly Hallows Part 1. This scene is longer, 1 minute and 40 seconds, but that's okay because it reveals some important things that were from the book, that being the origins of the ring and locket, the taboo on Voldemort's name, and the beating of the Horcrux, which was taken from one tiny line. So yeah, this is an okay scene. Next at number 42, I have Harry finding Nicholas Flamel's card. This has some funny moments and important information, but the information is given in the original version too, just in a different way. But overall, I do like this scene, and it's pretty decent. Next up at 41 is Snape's classroom extended from the Sorcerer's Stone. This scene is a bit funny because Harry's taking jabs at Snape too, but it's not the most important, but I do enjoy it, and it's a pretty decent scene. Next up at number 40 is the flying car extended scene from Chamber of Secrets. This scene is cool because it actually shows a muggle seeing the car, as well as the car actually hilariously nearly crashing into a clock tower. Pretty funny, pretty decent scene. Next up at number 39 is Hagrid and Harry on the tube ride, and it gives some information that wasn't in the original cut, including the fact that Hagrid really wants a dragon, which will become very important later with Norbert, of course, much later in the film, and it's a nice way to introduce Hagrid's love of dragons. It really is. Next up at 38, we have Dudley's uniform. This scene really shows how differently Harry and Dudley are treated. Very well, I might add. Like, it shows, like, Vernon, Petunia, and Dudley just laughing when Harry asks if he's going to Dudley's new school too, and it really shows how much they love Dudley and hate Harry. And this is a pretty good scene. Next up at 37, we have Filch's quick spell course. This scene, like, hints at Filch being a squib and shows why he's a bully to the children. He's jealous. This is a pretty good scene. Next at 36, I have the extended cake drop in the Chamber of Secrets. This scene adds some extra lines and some really funny lines at that, and I just feel like this scene is pretty good and should have been kept in the film. It's just a good scene with some hilarious dialogue. At the 35 spot, I have Polyjuice preparation. This shows Harry and Ron pulling Crabbe and Goyle into a broom cupboard, and then it really shows how disgusting the Polyjuice potion looks. And it does a pretty good job at that. We didn't really get to see that in the theatrical version, like, at all. But, it looks disgusting in this scene. Next up at 34, I have the real Crabbe and Goyle finding Harry and Ron transformed into them. It just makes for a hilarious moment, and I just think this should have been left in. At 33, I have Gilderoy Lockhart's quiz. This scene is just so funny because, well, it's a funny moment from the book, and it's not too long, while also just being downright hilarious. Really shows how arrogant Lockhart is, and it's just a great scene that should have been left in. At number 32, we have Harry meeting Justin Finch Fletchley. This scene is nice because you know he's Muggle-born, and he, of course, gets attacked later. And it just has some nice context. It adds nice context to the movie. At the 31st spot, I put Harry overhearing the students. The first part where he asks Hedwig who he is just so nice, and I really like it. And then the second part, when the students are questioning if it's him, it's just really, intense and suspenseful. Entering the top 30, I have Neville backing Harry. This is just one of the best Neville lines, and it's taken right from the book. What more could you want with this scene? At number 29, I have Harry meeting Colin. This is essentially the same as Harry meeting Justin, but it's Colin who is a lot funnier than Justin, and this scene is just hilarious and really nice. Why in the world did they cut this scene? At number 28, I have when Ron and Hermione are questioning Harry from the Chamber of Secrets. This scene is nice because it shows Harry's inner conflict, he's actually wondering if he's the heir of Slytherin, even though he's a Gryffindor. And this scene just holds so much emotional tension, and I really like it. At number 27, I have Borgin and Birch from the Chamber of Secrets. This scene really shows why Draco's a bully. It's because of his father. And this scene is nice, but my only complaint, it's 3 whole minutes long. For what this scene is, I think it should have been maybe 1.5 minutes, but 3 minutes is just too long. Still, I believe that it is quite a good scene. At number 26, I have Umbridge's monologue. This scene is 2 minutes long, which I do not like. However, this scene is very emotional and it has a lot of tension. You just hate Umbridge so much in this moment, and you're kind of worried what she's going to do. And overall, this is actually a good scene, despite Umbridge not being a good character. Entering the top 25, I have Crabbe, Goyle, and Draco bullying Neville. This scene is just so funny, and I just really love it. At number 24, I have Harry and Ginny gripping hands. I like this scene because, it's a really good Harry and Ginny moment, which the films don't have a lot of, and I just think it's a really nice, short scene. At the 23 spot, I have the fallout of Sirius Black's attack in Prisoner of Azkaban. This scene was just so good because it highlights a part from the book, which is when Sirius held a knife above Ron, and it also added a funny moment with Neville, and it showcases Harry's inner conflict when he said he could have killed Sirius, which of course later on he would not want to do because Sirius is a good guy, but Harry doesn't know in the moment, and it's really conflicting for him. At 22, I have Ron remembering Tom Riddle's name from the Chamber of Secrets. This scene is so nice because you really get to see Hermione's brain working so fast, and it's just a really cool scene that I just feel was just so well delivered, and it's just such a great scene. Why did they cut this? At 21, I have Harry entering Dumbledore's office in the Order of the Phoenix. This scene is nice because we see something from a previous film in a new way. We see the sword of Gryffindor lying on the desk and the sorting hat up in the little nook, and I just think this scene is nice. And also, coloring was pretty awesome in this scene. At 20, I have Harry, Ron, and Hermione leaving the bathroom. This turns actual writing in the book to dialogue in the film, which is so hard to do. And the last line, "What are friends for?" is just so nice, and I just think it's a really great scene. Why'd they cut it? At number 19, I have the extended night bus scene from The Prisoner of Azkaban. It's so funny to see the night bus doing donuts and Harry just holding on. You can see the cable, but it's a deleted scene. And also, it wasn't edited fully yet, so it makes sense why you can still see the cable and all the blue. But overall, this is a hilarious scene, and it's quite deserving of the number 19 spot. This should have been edited and added in. At number 18, I have Petunia's redemption. I don't like the scene as much as most people, but I still do really like it. Again, in this one scene, this 1 minute scene, it redeems Petunia's character. And it's just a nice scene, and it's kind of bittersweet. It's a really good scene, and the music when watching it in the actual extended edition, it's really great. At number 17, I have Karkaroff's arm from The Goblet of Fire. This scene is pretty nice, but at the end, Harry's scar burning is great foreshadowing for Voldemort returning. It really is, and this scene is just so good. At the number 16 spot, I have Harry, Ron, and Hermione discussing Barty Crouch's death. This scene was nice because it's just so intense and there's so much emotional conflict going on. And, of course, we don't know how Barty Crouch was killed. Well, at all in the movie, but not until later in the book. And this scene, it was just really cool. It was. Entering the top 15, we have Harry and Hermione discussing Draco on the Marauders map. This scene is nice, and I really like all of the deleted scenes from Half-Blood Prince. And this scene is just, it's really good. It really is. And I, again, don't know why this was cut. At 14, I have Harry and Hermione discussing Draco looking ill. This is just a good scene with some interesting parts interesting things that they're discussing. This is overall, again, a good scene that shouldn't have been cut. At the number 13 spot, I have Harry taking one last look at his dormitory. This scene is just so emotional because there's no music, no sound, just thought. And this scene, it's just really great. And when Harry looks at Ginny, it's just bittersweet. This is a very good scene, and it definitely should not have been cut. At number 12, I have Harry and Hermione's discussion on the astronomy tower. This scene is just so nice. It's the end of Half-Blood Prince, which is my favorite Harry Potter film, actually. And this scene is just so hilarious, and also it's kind of emotional. And we, of course, know that they're not coming back to Hogwarts. They're going on their own adventure now to search for the Horcruxes. And the way Ron looks at Harry is just so nice. I really love this scene. At number 11, I have Harry and Dumbledore's arrival to the cave. This scene is so good because it adds something from the book that hadn't been touched on, and it's just a nice scene that I think definitely shouldn't have been cut. It's a great scene that actually shows stuff from the book that we never learned in the film. Entering the top 10, I have Harry, Ron, and Hermione discussing the Vanishing Cabinet. It, of course, starts with Hermione telling Harry it's time to go to the cave, which is really nice. And then they walk out to the courtyard, which is a location used a lot in the older films, but that hadn't been used in the newer films. yet, and it's really nice. And of course, the end of this scene has the "I don't need luck, I'll be with Dumbledore" line, which is one of my favorite lines from the book. I just really love this scene, especially the end of it. At the number 9 spot, I have Dudley's goodbye to Harry. This scene is so nice because, it was taken from the book. And it's just such a great moment when Dudley redeems himself with 8 words. "I don't think you're a waste of space." It's just such a nice scene, and I wish it would have been fully edited and then added into the film. It's just a great scene that I do not think deserved to have been cut. Next up, for number 8, I have the Hogwarts theme song. This was one of my favorite moments in the first book, and when I watched the first movie and it wasn't in, I was super sad, but then when I watched the extended edition of Goblet of Fire, which was actually the first version of the film I watched, it had this and I was super happy. The song is a bit corny, but that's why it's so good. It's hilarious, and I really like it. It definitely deserves the number 8 spot. At the number 7 spot, I have In Noctum from the Half-Blood Prince. This is definitely the most well-known deleted scene, and for a reason. It's just so good. Of course, it starts with the choir, and the music is just dark and eerie. Of course, foreshadowing Dumbledore's death. Then everything is starting to get dark. Then McGonagall tells the students to go to their houses. And then it, of course, shows Snape where half of his head is in the darkness and half is in the light. Then his entire face goes dark before coming back fully to the light, just like he would do in the end. And then there's so much more emotional tension when Draco gets out of bed. And this scene, again, is just so emotional and definitely one of the best deleted scenes in Harry Potter. At number 6, I have the fire from Sorcerer's Stone. It may seem crazy to put this above In Noctum, but this is the first truly emotional scene in Harry Potter, and of course it was cut. Of course. Just so emotional, and Harry is just thinking about the mirror of Erised, and Ron is trying to comfort him, but it's not working, and Harry is just looking into the fire with so much going around inside him. And it's just such an amazing scene, and I have no idea at all why it was cut. Entering the top 5, I have the Weird Sisters Extended from Goblet of Fire. This scene is just so amazing, and I've said that I don't like long deleted scenes. This scene is 4 minutes, but it's 4 minutes for a reason. The Weird Sisters are just jamming like crazy, and it's just so fun to listen, and it's just so cool. And this song is just so good, and it can't really be explained just by words. You gotta listen to you gotta watch it on deleted scenes, whether on the Peacock Extended Edition. Well, I guess I don't think this scene is on there. Some scenes aren't, but I don't think this one is actually. But you can definitely just watch it on YouTube, and it's so amazing. So amazing. Why was it cut? Number 4 goes to Lupin and Tonks' reunion. This scene is just so sweet, and it's a great moment. I have no idea why this was cut, no idea whatsoever. And it reveals that they have a son before they're both dead, which makes their death even sadder, knowing that an orphan is being left behind. This scene is just so sweet, and it definitely deserves the number 4 spot. I'm kicking off the top 3 with Snape and Karkaroff from the Goblet of Fire. This scene is just so good. It is 2 minutes long, but it has so much plot information, important plot information at that. And it's so good. This scene is so good. And when Snape hides his arm, in the very next scene, Harry has the dream where Barty Jr. pulls down his arm and the dark mark is there, and we find out that's what Snape's hiding, and it's just so cool. And it reveals that literally Snape is a Death Eater before it's even fully revealed in the pensive scene. This scene is so awesome and deserving of the number 3 spot. Why was this cut? Number 2. Harry and Dumbledore leaving the cave from Half-Blood Prince. This scene is so good simply because of the line from Dumbledore, "I'm not worried, Harry, I'm from you." That was taken straight from the book, and it was one of my favorite moments in the entire book series. And when I first watched Half-Blood Prince, I actually watched the theatrical version first, and I was really sad that that part from the book wasn't in here. But when I watched the extended edition a little while later, I was so glad that this was added, and it's just an amazing scene. Why in the world was this cut? But of course, that only leaves one deleted scene left. The without a doubt best deleted scene in Harry Potter is Barty Jr.'s first falter in Goblet of Fire. It first shows Barty Sr. thinking that Moody is his son after the tongue flip, which Barty Jr. does a bunch in the film. This is what makes Barty Jr. notice his father is fighting the Imperius Curse, and soon after this, Barty Jr. of course kills his father. And then this moment right here is when Barty Jr. disguised as Moody falters for the first time. This dialogue is just so good. And when he slams Harry, it really shows that he's made a mistake, and he's began to reveal himself, even just so slightly. I'm just going to play the whole scene, and after, you should see why it's the best.
I'm sure your parents would be very proud of you today, cousin.
Artemius! Not trying to lure Potter into one of the Ministry's summer internships, are we? Last boy who went into the Department of Mysteries never came out. And they say I'm mad. If you want to play the hero, I can find you plenty playmates among the first years. Otherwise, I suggest you grow up, and grow up fast. There are worse than mermaids ahead of you. We can win this.
There you go. That is every deleted scene in Harry Potter ranked. This is Ronan Hayes Games. I'm out.